Good evening, everybody. And if you're joining us, thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out, waiting for us to go live. You're listening to the Angel Rock on United Public Radio Network. If you're watching this show, you may be able to see it on Facebook. First, I should introduce myself. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin. I am a Canadian psychic medium. I'm a crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, a spiritual teacher and mentor, and I'm also a nurse. And tonight, I have a guest that is a good friend. I've been trying forever. Thank God for spirit. We're going to talk about it, but let me introduce you to him. You've heard me mention about him. I don't say people's names without asking them, but I've mentioned numerous times that I've wanted to be getting him on here. So his name is David Hanzel, and David is a spiritual medium and has been a psychic and channel since he was a child. In 2015, he had a near-death experience that left him in a 2-month coma. He came back from this with knowledge of the other side he had not known before. His goal is to simplify spirituality through channeling the spirit people and loved ones during mediumship galleries and readings, helping people realize that no one ever dies, which is so true, and that there's more to our existence than we realize. He uses laughter, honesty, and compassion to interpret the spirit world and teach others to connect with the other side. And David, welcome. Sorry, probably 1 year's peers. I was reading. Welcome.
I was like, where'd you go? You disappeared.
I forgot to tell. I want to say hi. You'll see me stop. I keep an eye on the chat room. I want to remind people, if you can't see us on Facebook, now that I'm able to book my own shows, I'm streaming live on my profile. It's Lorilei Potvin on Facebook. You can also see us on numerous UPRN Facebook pages, such as UFO Paranormal. There's Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover. There is so many different pages. We normally have 3 YouTube channels. We're still waiting for other one back. So we're on our newest channel, which I believe is called, I just had the name. I think it's Independent Public Radio. I want to say hi to people in the chat. We have a few comments. I like to involve them, David, and make them feel like they're part of the show. So we've got Carol Sloan. She says, hello, Lorilei and David. Jeannie Spencer. Hey, Jeannie, she's from the UK. Carol's from, I think, California. She says, hello, Lorilei and guest. And Jeannie, this is David Hanzel, because I know you tuned in after I introduced him. And Corinne Champagne says, David has old soul eyes. Thank God she said soul eyes, right?
I've got very old eyes as well. Yeah.
David also has a podcast. I've been a guest on his podcast before. And let's start this out this way, David.
Okay.
I have been trying to get you on my show forever. And you always work on Monday nights. Let people know what happened today. And I probably was doing handsprings because I did not have a guest book this evening, by the way.
Well, it's really quite odd. Like Lori said, we've been trying to get together on her podcast for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
I keep a day job as well as what I do at night. People think I'm crazy, and that's true. But I always work every Monday night, and I have to be there for what I do on Mondays. But for some strange reason, my boss yesterday asked me if I would work in the morning today instead of at night. So I said yes. And then when I was walking into work today, I just got that little thing and said,
"You can tell them your spirit. I understand with this channel."
Yeah, I got that little hello, Dave, talking to me, and they said to get hold of Lori and just. They just said get hold of Lori, and I thought, okay, for what? What, to listen to the show? So I was texting Lori to say, hey, I want to listen to the show tonight because I haven't been able to even hear it because I'm always working.
Yeah.
And she said, come on,
Yay! Yes, because I am normally booked, and you know this because we've tried to get you on
for months. Yeah.
3 months in advance, and with the summer coming and everything else, I just sort of let things run out, and I have a ton of messages out to people. I have great guests coming up, and I didn't have tonight booked. And I actually was feeling a little bit of the weather the last few days. I thought, well, if I'm really not feeling well, we could do a replay. Woke up feeling great, and I heard Spirit say, don't worry about it. It's going to be a great show. So I thought, you know what? we'll do readings tonight. And I got your message. I was practically turning handsprings, but that's how spirit works, doesn't it?
That, it does for me all the time. And it's really quite wonderful. And I always try to let people know that you can like get the same messages Lori and I do.
Mhm.
You got to train yourself to listen. You got to speak the symbolism. You've got to believe in them, and you've got to know that these people are there. And you'll start to hear them after a while. I mean, maybe not like we do, exactly, or like I do, or like Lori. Everybody does a little differently, but you can get the same messages, and if you pay attention, they're going to bring you to the things you need. And
Well,
that's
plus if you listen, because a lot of people think, oh, that was just coincidence, or that was just imagination.
there's no
That's all
such
that
thing as
happened.
coincidence. Yeah, there's no
But
such thing.
I always tell people, the more you pay attention and you start to hear, and people think they're going to hear the voice of God or something. I will tell you, it's different for everybody. For myself, and the way I describe it is, it's when you're laying awake at night, you've got a problem, say, for example, and you're really trying to figure out something. And this is mostly for people that haven't heard their guides. And all of a sudden you get the solution. It comes out of nowhere. It's like this stroke of genius. You even think, like, where'd that come from? You follow it and it works out perfectly. But it was in your voice. You're not hearing voices, but it's stated a little differently in my voice when I hear it. And I know right away now, because you get used to the feel of it with energy, if you will. You just know after a while. And a lot of people, I know for myself, I've been hearing this my whole life. I just never knew what it was until I started, realizing about my gifts as I got older. And I'll stop there for one sec. Janie Walker. Hey, Janie. She says, greetings from Central Louisiana. That's what we're broadcasting out of, even though I'm in Canada and David, you're in the US. I don't always give people's location unless they want to. But let's talk about you, because you have a fascinating story that you and I, first time David and I got on the phone, we talked for like 6 hours. I didn't realize how quick it had gone. So
Didn't we talked about aliens? That was the one we talked about.
everything and all of that's not off the table on this channel, because I usually say this, but I was so excited to introduce you. Most of the people that have been to my channel know what it's about, and I always say thank you for being here and returning. But people who haven't been to my channel, I say I cover all aspects of the supernatural, whether that's UFOs, aliens, the paranormal, but it's always with a positive spin. Talk about things like spirit, accessing your gifts, the power of the mind, the power of positivity, with a little bit of, and I like to call it, truth seeking in there. So it's a big conglomerate. So most people here, they understand this. And if there's a term we use, they'll either ask, what is that, or what have you. But on to you, David, because you have a fascinating story.
Oh,
You were always clairaudient, but you had a near-death experience, right?
yeah. I had, long story short, I've always been able to hear them and recognize the intuition since I was a child, and I thought that was just something that people did. Um, I did hear I did hear a separate voice.
Mm-hmm. Some people do, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I did, when I was younger, I did, and then they kind of took that away because it was freaking me out. And
that's what happens, right?
Yeah, and I started to hate it, and I didn't want anything to do with it. Long story short, they changed it after a while to his really strong thoughts, but the thoughts would talk in my voice sometimes, but it wasn't the way I talk. So that's how I knew it was them, and I started to recognize that. But yeah, I went through my life hearing that, knowing that. We'll talk about crazy stuff I've saw in my life. It was very quite odd, but I hated it. I hated all the oddness. I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. So I wanted to just be a normal person. Yeah. And no offense to normal people, but that's what I wanted to be. It's just,
of course, we all do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And drank it and drugged it away for years and years and years, but they were always there. And I would do readings once in a while, but I didn't know that I was talking to as many I'm just going to call them dead people, as I knew. I mean, half the voices sometimes that came to me when I was younger, I didn't know they were from dead people. I thought they were the voices from the people who always talked to me, but it ended up being all kinds of people talking to me. I didn't like it. I didn't know what to do with it after a while. And then in 2014, I was suffering from so many panic attacks and so many alcohol addictions, and then they had me on psychotropic drugs for every for years. And it's funny, they can still get through with those drugs.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, I've learned that I would never trust the messages because they were distorted, but they would still get through. I asked God to show me what to do or just let me go. I was done. And I begged to, but I was too much of a wimp to go off myself. So I just said, God, you off me. Let's just do this. And I started to get sick and sicker and sicker and sicker to where I wasn't walking. I couldn't eat. I couldn't do anything. They took me to a doctor who misdiagnosed me, told my parents that I just had a cold and needed to eat something. And we had explained to them that even water, the minute I drank water, I was throwing it up. They sent me back home, and about 2 weeks later, that's when everything hit me, and I passed out. I walked in the room. Actually, my little brother was there, and he just looked at me and said, David, you look like crap. And I just said, Mark, I'm going to die now. And then I closed my eyes, and that was it. I woke up 2 months later. uh, i had pneumonia, a really bad case of pneumonia that was covered 70% of my left lung, and I had sepsis running through my body. So
Got that.
yeah, so I had sepsis running through my body. So that's why everything I ate or drank, one, it tasted awful, like infection. It was nasty, and had it for that extra 2-3 weeks. And
That
they did.
shows how strong you were, David. And for people that don't understand what sepsis is, it is an infection in your blood and all of your organs, goes through your whole body. It kills usually within 24 to 48 hours. The fact that you were able to hang on that long, look at how strong you were.
Yes, I did. It was almost, they didn't, I don't know exactly when the sepsis hit in. It was before the surgeries, because then I did the surgery, and apparently that's when I heart stopped quick, and that's when I had my adventure. And then into the coma. Um, I was aware of almost the entire 2 months, but to everybody else, I was laying in a bed with ventilators in my throat, and they were telling my parents every night that I wasn't going to make it through to the next morning. But here I am. But I never went through any pain. I don't remember any pain whatsoever, except for once I passed out. The pain before that was awful. And um, probably the worst thing coming out of the coma was, I read in my book everything that happened in the coma, what they took me through and what happened. But when I came out, probably the most painful thing was when the memories rushed back in
Mm-hmm.
of kind of who I was. And then it took me about a good year after that to kind of figure out that I was David. So that was odd. Other than that,
I remember when we talked about this, you did have some very interesting adventures if you want to share them, but you are a completely different person now than what you were before your accident, right? Or
yeah,
your experience, I'll say.
yeah, I couldn't believe that I was me. And when people talk about the me that was before, I always call him Old Dave. I say, Old
Yeah,
Dave
you
used to
do.
do
Yeah,
that.
you do. When we talked, yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I don't remember when they tell me, like, I used to drink and smoke and had anxiety attacks and everything. And after the coma, I don't remember smoking. I don't never went through withdrawals. I don't remember drinking. I can't drink now because actually there's something wrong with my pancreas from all the surgeries. So if I did drink, I'd die. But I don't. I can't stand. I can smell it like a mile away. I mean, somebody could talk a block away that had a beer and I could smell it. It's really odd. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I don't remember them. Um, I don't do anything. I don't remember any of that. I had to come back brand new. My whole life switched and changed too, where I wanted to be normal. Now all the things that I do just get stronger and stronger and stronger every day. Um, and now I love them. A lot of people used to tell me, Oh, he's a walk-in now. He's a walk-in.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you're reading my mind, and you're there's a lot to me between David and I. But I was thinking about that because we have talked about that privately. Like, am I a walk-in? You're gonna have to explain to people what a walk-in is. We know, but they may not know.
Well, a walk-in, and this depends. I mean, there's probably different ways of saying it, but basically what happens is if somebody leaves this earth for whatever reason, like say when I went over there and I just said, I can't handle this, I'm not coming back. And they'll say, well, that's a perfectly good body. And, we're going to send another soul in your place into your body.
Mm-hmm.
That can happen. And then that person will come back. But the whole thing is that kind of walk in, they're not going to remember. They'll have the life imprinted in them. So they kind of recognize that they're that person, but they still would seem extremely different as different people. Another thing that's been actually explained to me by several people now who don't know me, and this is new, Lori, several people who didn't know me who gave me these readings all pretty much said these same things about, and I don't know what to think of it, and I'm not claiming any of it, but that when I went over, I came back with some kind of other being's energy with me.
Interesting.
So it's like two people, but it's like almost like you went over there and your DNA over there, your soul of your DNA changed, or the DNA of your soul changed.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't actually come in with two people. You have this extra knowledge for whatever reason. That one makes more sense because I knew a lot of things that I had no clue how I even got that information from. And then I'll talk to people and be like, yeah, how did you know this? That's like not something a lot of people know. I said, I don't know. I'm just
So that would be a classic case of claircognizance, right? We know stuff, but don't.
Yeah, it is like a claircognizance. It's almost like the same thing as claircognizance. The only thing that's different is some of the knowledge I know, or like they have me speak, I don't know where it's coming from.
Gotcha. So that's not claircognizance.
Yeah,
I was talking about the knowledge for people that maybe
yeah,
right.
mine's a
Don't know
little
where it's
different.
coming from, then yeah.
But I'm still very claircognizant. I mean, everybody is. Some people are just really, really claircognizant, which is, and I know you are too as well, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah.
And like Lori will probably tell you the same thing. The trick is to use a claircognizance is learning how to trust it. So start validating these thoughts you get, and then you'll know that it is true claircognizance. Just it doesn't, although claircognizance doesn't always work for like reading cards.
I'm still here. Hang on, keep talking, David. I'm gonna try fixing any.
It doesn't always work for reading cards. Like if somebody says, hold up this card and you tell me what's on the back of that card, or if it's red or yellow or something like that. Some people think that
I'm gonna pop out and pop right back in here because no, do that. So good. I'm going to read a few comments, or we have some questions for you. Carol, there's a few, so I'll share them.
Yeah.
Carol asks, who told you about waiting? And then the second part, and then I'll read Kate's comment because they're similar. She said, what do your friends and family say and think of you now? And then Kate Walker says, at least it seems like it. He was in a near fatal auto accident involving drugs/alcohol, was in a coma, came out a different person, but much clearer. Didn't go back to drugs or alcohol ever after probably 20 years of struggling with addiction.
Yeah, that happens. I always call it, some of these traumas we go through that might seem so bad to everybody else, you have to realize that it changed our lives. You come back different people. Everybody that I know who has had an NDE, their lives are completely different. I mean, it's completely different. It's overwhelming. Oh, I'm reading Kate's comment while we're waiting for her to come back. It came out 20 years struggling with addiction. That's a long time. I was in the same boat. I was like 20, 30 years.
I'm back. Sorry, it closed on me. I'm telling you guys, hopefully the audio will be better. This happened last week.
Oh.
And the audio cleared up. I don't think else, but it is just chop, 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 chop nonstop. So I apologize.
That's okay. Is mine choppy?
No, it's me. And I'm going to have to talk to Joe because I have closed every single program on my phone. I've turned off every notification. And this is the third time this has happened. The one was in a meeting that we learned how to do this. And now it's perfect. Welcome. I was wondering where you were, man. He's one of our regular guys here. So he's just tuning in. Sorry, David, where were you? And you got so rudely interrupted by me. Go ahead.
There was a comment before Kate's that I didn't quite hear because we got chopped up.
Okay, so Carol was asking after Kate shared her friend's brother's experience. She wanted to know, who told you about your past way of being before you had the near-death experience? And then Carol also asked, what do your friends and family say and think of you now?
What was the first part? Who told me about what?
About how you used to be.
Oh, my friends and family. They'll tell me how I used to be. Everybody that I've ever known, the people I went to school with, some of my high school friends, I didn't have many because I wasn't very liked in high school, but I have some, the ones that I do have are really good friends. Some of the ones who used to pick on me, who now know what I do, they all say the same thing, is that but I used to stare off all the time when I was younger, or when I was in high school. People would always say, Dave, what's the name? Dave's always off in the space. And they'd ask me, what are you thinking about? I'm like, oh, nothing. I'm just listening. And I was hearing, I was constantly seeing stuff and hearing stuff constantly. But I never told them what I was doing because, they would think I was crazy, especially back then, 80s and the 90s. That was a really bad way to be in the 80s and 90s,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my parents, I mean, they always tell me I'm a totally different person, but they still they're the same. They're probably happy that I am the way I am now. I mean, they spent 2 months listening to a doctor tell me I was going to die every day. So they're happy. A lot of my relatives and other parts of the family, I don't know. I only know my immediate family now. I mean, the other people I know right now are my mom, my dad, and my little brother. So.
It's not you, it's me. And I apologize, everybody.
So
keep talking, David.
It's okay.
I'm going to let I'm having major audio issues. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still.
Now I can hear you better, and then it gets staticky. And if anybody are hearing that in the audio, producer, and let them know I'm going to say we're having major audio issues and nothing's fixing it. Because anything I did last week, nothing's fixing it.
There you go.
Hang on. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, that sounds perfect now.
Okay, let's see. I messaged him. He'll text me back. See, because like I said, this is now the third week. Now it seems it's settling a bit. We'll see. We do have a thunderstorm, but it could be something that Joe might have to fix in the studio. He does all this. And guys, it's me tonight. So we got a question too. We got from Kate. Do you think it's possible if something like you did with your higher self during that time and experience some kind of enlightenment, or does it feel like you're sharing space with another soul? That's a good question.
How does it feel like I'm sharing space with another soul? There are times where, yes, in all honesty, when I do like gallery readings, or even when I do regular like mediumship readings online, or even the psychic ones, which I really like the psychic. I have learned to step away. So a lot of times they say stuff and I just let them start talking, and I mean, it's in my voice, but I just let them start talking. I just let the thoughts come through. I don't even try anymore. They just kind of happen. At that point, yeah, don't feel like I'm all here.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess if she said before, a lot of people would refer to me as a spiritual medium, or I mean, there's all different kinds of mediums, and I hate to just give a special label to anything, but a spiritual medium basically means for me, when I do whatever I do, normally I'm just Dave. I'm just Dave having fun. You know, I got a dirty potty mouth, and I like to swear, and I like to watch.
He's hilarious, guys.
Uh,
He's
but
well behaved tonight.
I am. I'm trying. I'm trying to be. Otherwise, you know, But
Just yourself, David. Just because
I,
people know who you are. Mm.
but I will when I do readings and stuff. I go to another space. I mean, the fun comes out and everything else, like I am. But when I start working, yeah, that's when it feels like I step aside and somebody joins me. Being a spiritual meeting connect to it. So I go into that right into that energy instead of just feeling it, instead of just seeing it and hearing it. I can actually feel it. So I feel the emotions, how I'm supposed to say them. I feel all that stuff. It's really quite odd, but it's fascinating. I mean, I love it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. I think
So,
it's better than any drug. It's better than any high you can ever have.
well, you know what? I've been dying to share with people, and I'm going to talk to you off the air about this. No pressure, but right now, I'm finding so many people are into their spirituality. Got a lot of questions. I don't know, maybe if you're doing this your whole life, maybe you didn't. Thanks, Joe. It's a little bit better. It's a lot better, actually, David.
Yes.
Because Joe's working on it right now. He just texted me. That's why I said I'm still here. I just texted him back and said thank you because it's a lot better than it was.
Oh yeah. Now. Oh, so close. It was. It was really good.
He's working on it. I can see him. He's in the green room. That's our PRN. I'm going to give him a huge shout out, Joe Montaldo. And he's taught us what to do. And I did it last week. This happened in the staff meeting. And then last week I had, I don't know if you've Nust and Nori Love.
Oh shit! It's the Dave Show. Anyway, I think you guys can still hear me.
Oh, she's been replaced. I'm so much sexier. What can I say? Let me do something. Hey, Lori, do me a favor. Take yourself all the way out of the box and come back.
Me?
It won't let me kick you out. So, yeah, kick your own self out. I'm not going away. I'll be right here.
I gotta close the page to do it then?
No. That should be. You can just leave. Just go. You can mouse out left by hitting the left button. But it shouldn't go anywhere because I'm in here now. So
this is what
I hope it don't go anywhere.
Okay, I'll come back. I promise.
Okay, there we go. Hey, how you doing there? Not sure what the hell was going on there, but it sounded like the gremlins were trying to eat her.
Yeah, right.
Every now, well, it's long distance. When you're crossing the world or crossing different countries, sometimes we get little issues. Well, the bloop sounded good anyway.
Yeah,
say something.
I'm back.
Hey. All right, that sounds way the hell better.
Joe, I'm going to talk to you out. Well, he's gone already. I'm going to talk to him afterwards. And I apologize, David. This is new. And Joe had a staff meeting. I want to give him a huge shout out because he normally does all this. But guys, he's becoming a big Hollywood star in October. He's going to, I think it's the People's Choice Award. Some of our shows are up for awards and stuff. So just so we can still come to you live, he taught all of us regular live hosts how to do this. Oh, thank you, Joe. That's 100% better. Everybody's saying that's so much better. Thank you. And anyways, he asked me last Monday, are you going to do it? And I said, nothing like baptism by fire. And I did it, but I had these awful audio issues, but it seemed when I popped out and popped back in, it was fine, but I have tried everything. So thank God Joe's always around. So thank you, Joe. He owns UPRN. He's got a lot of great shows for those of you who haven't heard his shows. He's got UFO Undercover. He's got The Gray Zone Uncensored with Michelle DeRoche, and he's got The Centralist. He's got all kinds of shows, so make sure to check him out. Anyways, everybody's going, that's 100% better. Yay. Hooray, Joe. Where were we, David? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. Trust me.
I know what I was going to say. I'm getting it from spirit because there's a lot of people newly awakened asking a lot of the questions that we hear. I know I asked many years ago, how do I hear my guides? How do I open my third eye? What are guides? Do crystals work? You name it, on and on. What do you do when you're a medium? So I'm putting together, actually, I think it's going to look like a master class, like an hour presentation with a lot of people that have specialty areas. I'm hoping to ask Dave. I have to talk to him. I haven't sprung it on him yet. But the one thing I want to share with you, and this is one thing I talk to people about, I don't tell them your name, but I am blown away. As guys, I have a German Shepherd that's right next door here, next to me, Emmy. And we had gone out to camp, and she just turned 2 years old. So she was about a year and a half old. My mother-in-law's dog did not like dogs. When we came back, she was trying to murder the puppy next door who had been her best friend. I tried everything to fix this. David and I were talking, and because he was right on the money, everything he picked up, he suggested how to fix it. Guys, it was fixed literally in 30 seconds because of David. So, David, you also are able to communicate with animals, right?
Yeah, I communicate with the dead ones a lot easier,
Yes.
but the live ones too. So for that, if I can explain that kind of communication that I got for two living dogs in another country, that was interpreted to me. So what would happen, if you want to know the mechanics of, I guess, how that works, is I just sit here for a moment and I try to tune into that dog's energy. And as I'm trying to do that, I don't know actually if I'm ever in that energy, but I do know when I get close to it, because a spirit comes up to me and starts giving me all the information from the dog and interpreting to me. And it's really funny how it works, but they interpret it in thoughts. And I can tell when I got the dog, because the dog will send me pictures, but the guys will send me voice. So it sounds confusing, but it's really not. It's so rapid fire. I was never trained how to do it. It just happened. It just started happening. I mean, I didn't know it was really happening until I actually, and this is a funny story, if you want to hear a funny story about communicating with.
Absolutely. That's what we're all about here.
So a friend of mine called me up, no friend of mine, and she said, I have a friend of mine on the phone. I think that's what happened. We were on the same phone call or something. She said, they have a lizard that was sick or something like that.
Yep.
Something about a lizard. They said, could you see what you get on it? And I sat there for a minute with my intention to talk to this lizard. And right after that intention, I try to validate stuff. I'm a big validator because I'm the most skeptical medium you'll ever meet in your life. And I sat there and I described the lizard. I'm like, so does a lizard like this, and that? And they said, yes. I'm like, okay, then I can see it. So obviously, since I can see it, I said, is this, and I didn't know the lizard was in the hospital. And I said, was the lizard in the hospital? And why does his left hand hurts? His left hand was hurting. And they're like, oh my gosh, he was at the vet because he got dehydrated or something, and they put a little needle into his left. She said it was into his little left hand to give him the stuff. But he was telling me this through pictures of this. And then he told me, I asked him like why I was there. I'm like, I'm going to start asking questions because they were concerned about him. And I said, is there something wrong with, I was trying to send him pictures. Is there something wrong with where you are? He was afraid. And why are they afraid? So I came back on the phone. I said, he's afraid. And I'm trying to figure out why he's afraid. And then he showed me like the whole like earthquakes. I kept seeing all of these pictures of earthquakes and everything. I'm like, what's that? And I said, hey, you know what? And then they gave me the thought. And I said, are you guys have construction going on or something next door to your house? And they said, yeah, it's been going on for 4 months. Like, my gosh, that poor lizard is feeling every damn vibration from that construction next door. He's not happy where he is. I said, just move him, I guess. And they did, and that's what it was. They moved him off the table he was on. But that was how I figured out, oh my gosh, you can talk to lizards for crying out loud. So that was the weirdest thing that happened to me.
But you know what? Like Jeannie already added from the UK, I love you already, Dave. And she said, that's amazing. The animals. I don't know if you can see, I highlighted her
Oh,
comments
thank
it on the
you.
screen.
Thank you.
But honestly, and I knew David was very gifted, and we didn't plan this. I think what happened, I was outside and Emmy started barking. And I said, yeah, this has been going on with the neighbor's dog next door. And all you said was, would you mind if I have a chat with her? And I said, please do. First thing David says, and I remember, oh my, Emmy's quite chatty. And I said, look at her mother.
Yeah, she was a chatty dog, and then people ask, how can an animal be chatty?
Yeah.
Listen, here's a little pointer for anybody watching. You want to talk to an animal.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I think you should begin. If you have a dog or a cat at home, catch their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Just catch their eyes and get that gaze into their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're doing that, after you can do that a while and that animal stares at you, turn your brain off and just turn off your left side of your brain, that thinking side. Just turn it off. Turn on the right side and start paying attention to each and every picture and thought you get. You're going to notice that some of those thoughts are going to be really odd. That's because you're reading their thoughts. That's how animals communicate with us. They read our thoughts. Animals are so connected. When your dog runs up to you, he knows exactly how you're feeling. He knows exactly your next move. He knows, everything. And that's because they see the pictures too. When you come home and you're thinking about a bad day, they can pick that up. So I think maybe they can see those pictures as well as the pictures.
What's so mind blowing? Okay, first of all, for people that go, well, that how do you just turn your brain off? Imagination works very well with working with spirit or working with these gifts. Believe
they work in the right side. Yeah.
Thank you. When you said that, I could literally picture myself looking at my brain, if you will, and picking a light switch. Okay, we're going to turn the left side off. We're going to flick the right side on. But the interesting thing is, yes, Emmy looks at me, but you know who does? My cat. Constantly. Oh, yeah. And then he gives you the blink, like they say that's I love you. He does it all the time. I'm going to do that with him because you know what? He's telling me stuff. I know he is.
Slow blink back to your cats. Trust me. They know exactly.
You know what I was going to add to this? Sorry, I got off track here for a second. There's a woman by the name of Temple Grandin who is a great spokesperson for people with autism. She's got severe autism, but she's been very, very successful. She was born in the early 50s when it was almost unheard of. And the doctor told her mother to institutionalize her, and her mother wouldn't do it. She was a teacher. And there's a movie about her made with Claire Danes playing her. And she's actually got a PhD in animal studies. She does not agree with it. There's a reason why I'm getting into all this. She doesn't agree with it, but she has created 3/4 of the world's humane slaughter designs for slaughterhouses so that the animals are not afraid and not feeling the stress, because she could pick this up. But what she explains, and it's so helpful for parents with children with autism, including myself. I have a 23-year-old son with severe autism. She explains that autistic people think in pictures, like that are especially severely autistic. And I found most people with autism have a real connection with animals. Now you wonder why. Maybe they're real. Because my son has told me he has 2 superpowers. He went, Mommy, I have 2 superpowers. And I said, well, what are they, sweetie? He goes, well, first of all, I always know what the animals are thinking. And my eldest can communicate with animals. I know I told you privately. He told me many of the things you told me as well, to be able to communicate almost word for word with animals. But anyways, back to my youngest. And I said, well, what's your second superpower? And he looked at me kind of like with that look like, duh. He goes, well, my autism, of course. And it was so incredible to hear this. And I didn't mean to get off track, but you're talking about animals thinking in pictures.
Meaning, a lot of people pay attention to people with disabilities, because a lot of their disabilities, I don't like to call them disabilities though. I mean, if we can actually tap into what they're tapping into, oh my gosh, we'd all be amazing psychics and mediums, because these kids and adults who you think, oh, poor them, oh, goodness gracious. Somebody had told me a long, long time ago, we saw this little girl in a wheelchair. She couldn't move or couldn't really do anything. And another little girl next to her, I'll never forget, looked at me, and the way, I guess she caught the way I was looking at her, like I was like, oh my gosh, that poor thing. And the girl said to me, she goes, she talks to God.
Oh, David, you almost made me like break into tears, and I don't cry easily.
Well, it was true. I did the same thing. I'm like, oh, and that was a message for me too. This was back in the days where I was like, they would just send me anything. And I had a thought about this stuff, saw that little girl, and that other girl walked up to me, and I was like, she is absolutely correct. They do. I know they do. And they do it a whole hell of a lot easier than we do. So I think we should pay attention. We should pay attention to those. They're very, very special.
We have somebody in the chat, Kate Walker, and thank you for sharing this, Kate. She says, my son and I are autistic. That is definitely true for us. My communication opened up a lot with age, but as a child, I was basically selectively mute, except with animals. My son was nonverbal till he was probably about 6.5, and still to this day, we have to be discussing something that's of interest. And if somebody walks in the room, he's got an eidetic memory like I do. I'm not under the spectrum, but I do have like a photographic memory. And he'll walk in sounding like a little computer, but he's just memorized something, and he'll be repeating it. But know he wants to communicate. Like, you have to pick up as moms their signs. Like when we'd be out and people would think it would be adorable, and he'd say, I love you, Mom. I love you, Mom. And you'd know that meant, Mom, I'm getting really anxious. I'm not going to be able to cope much longer. We need to go. Or what he always will do, and he might ask you a few times, is, do you have any pets? What's your pets' names? But he wants to communicate, but he's not really sure, right? And I think that is so beautiful that you said that, David. Thank you for sharing that.
No, I think it's very true. They possess a lot of gifts that a lot of us just wish we had. So they took on a lot by coming here and taking that on. So
exactly, you're reading my mind again. I was just saying that because there's a bit of a pause, so I apologize if I accidentally almost talk over you. Okay. But he it's been told by so many that he chose to, and I believe my son was born. I know there's a genetic component, but I believe he was born like he was diagnosed at 11 months, which is almost unheard of. So it was a blessing in disguise.
I'm a strong believer in anything that we are born with. We did choose before we came here. We said, hey, we're going to do this because and and I know on the other side they're trying to talk people out of it, going, yeah, you don't want to do that. Like,
yes, they do try.
Because but people don't understand, and this is weird, but sometimes, not all the time, but for the most part, the more horrific and strange and weird your life is, the more you expand when you go back over. I mean, that's what we came here to do. Some people just take on this big stuff, and sometimes it's a lot, and they could be traumatized to it when they first go over, but they took it on and they did it.
I mean, I find that, and I found that most people, not everybody, but a lot of people that I find that are, say, in the light worker field, most people I've talked to have had a pretty traumatic upbringing. Like, they've got either a really difficult situation growing up, maybe with the parents, or, there's a lot of, because you'll hear, especially a lot of people new to this while they're trying to figure it out, like trauma comes up like 20 times in a conversation, but it's like, I don't know if it's because it's an older soul maybe, or what it is, or like you said, maybe we just put it on our plate because we really want to have that experience and really expand. But I usually don't meet somebody in this field that says, yeah, some I have, but the majority have not said, geez, I had a Brady Bunch growing up, family growing up, and I sailed through school and I've been uber successful my whole life. But then again, why would you ever look into the light worker field? Probably you'd be in another, I don't know. What's your thoughts?
No, I'm the same. Yeah, you know what? 98% of the strange and unusual people I know, which I will call psychics, mediums,
Yeah.
anybody who uses their gifts, they had some major trauma before this happened. And I tell people, you can't buy this. So, I mean, you can't just go. I've seen people, they'll take a course to be a medium, and they'll take like a 3-week course. The next thing you know, they got a website and they're charging $400 an hour. And I'm like, wait, you can't buy this. It takes it does take a lot of years of going through a lot of crap and learning situations. Everything, I always tell people, everything you've ever done in this life up until this moment, and especially if you're going into this field, it's training. It goes in a file in your head. When spirits talk to me, sometimes like the loved ones that I talk to, when they go through my mind, I can almost actually feel it. Like, so they'll go through my mind. If I can't hear them for some reason, or I can't see them, they'll I had a ghost one time, or not a ghost, sorry, a loved one of somebody. One time kept showing me the same pictures of the same type of male body until finally it landed on Barney Fife. And I said to the woman, I said, okay, there's a gentleman here. And I said, this is odd, but I said, he's very skinny and he reminds me of Barney Fife. And in fact, his name is Barney, he's saying. She's like, yeah, that's Barney. It looks just like Barney Fife. I mean, so that they go through my mind to find that look if I couldn't see him or anything. So, all that, or they'll go through my head to find traumatic events so I can relate to it why I'm giving the reading. So they can find the emotion in me, so they can make me project it. So when they just talk to me, it doesn't sound like a robot. They're very emotional. So yeah, people should enjoy the trauma. If you've had trauma and everything, there's a reason behind it. And at the end of every life is a happy ending. So don't worry about it.
We're going to talk about that, but I want to agree with you because I know for yourself and I, we still haven't found out what the plant is that they suggested to you. You were asking them to show you a picture or something. Remember, for the chronic pain with my back. And I didn't tell David this, by the way. And he always asks permission. He just isn't going to people's energy. And I was very open to it. And they've told him there's some kind of plant that will help, but we haven't been able to find out what it is.
You haven't found it yet? I know it's out there. And maybe during this, because I don't, but people don't realize, probably the bummer part of how I do it or what I do is it's wished away out of my head, like when I'm done. So it's got to be brought back.
You have to. For example, and you know this about me, David, I've probably shared it to other people. Mediumship is one of my newer gifts to me. Like for me, connecting with spirit, it's like hanging with my best friend all day. Like I can just ask him something, hear it, it's no problem. But the biggest shock for me with mediumship was, and how I found out, I'm going to share it very quickly. I happened to be out shopping for Christmas, and I used to work in the NICU. And I had a single mom give birth to 27-week-old twins, a boy and a girl. The little boy was very ill. Whenever we had a premature baby, we always prayed for girls because boys are always so much sicker. And he had a brain bleed. So a huge, like almost like a stroke, if you will. Lo and behold, I'm working in the community. Who comes on my caseload but this little boy? He's now about 6 years old. Mom needs some help. He's in a wheelchair. The little girl was okay, but he wasn't. We had severe cerebral palsy. Fast forward, I've hurt my back, been away from my job for a long time, and I walk into Canadian version of Barnes and Noble, which is called Chapters. Who do I run into? This mom. And as I go to give her a hug, I hear, "Tell my mommy I love her." And I was just about in tears. And he'd never spoken, but he showed me healthy. I could see it all. And she said, by the way, and I won't say his name, she said, blank just passed away a couple months ago. I said, you're going to think this is crazy. I said, but I just heard, tell my mommy I love her. And that happened about 3 or 4 times that weekend. just running into people. Somebody would pop in and went, okay, this is a sign from spirit. I need to look at this more closely. My biggest thing for me with mediumship, though, when I speak three languages, is it's like going to a different country. Some people, for me, show me, and we've talked about this, show you pictures. Sometimes it's a smell. Sometimes it's just energy. Sometimes you can see them clear as day. I know you can see spirit much more than I can. So that's why I'm not uber confident. I found the best thing that works for me, if I have somebody send me a picture with before they pass, the most recent, but with their eyes and their face. The last two readings I have done, one was with a baby, and we didn't plan on it because I usually ask somebody ahead of time, right? Last one I just did on the weekend, I opened my eyes Saturday morning, the reading Saturday night. There's this lady standing here. I said, hello, can I help you? And she says, I have a message for so-and-so that you're doing a reading this evening. And it kept feeling like a mother, like mother energy, mother love. And I kept saying, mother, no, no. So we started the reading off with this. And I don't divulge people's personal information. This is just I know you know that, but for people listening, confidentiality, and I know for you, David, as well, is uber important. Anyways, long story short, she gives me the message and I pass it along to the gentleman, and he's very puzzled. And I said, that's okay, because sometimes you're going to walk away from this and it's going to make sense. Sometimes someone could come up and say something to you. It will come through. I feel that strongly about this. Sure enough, as we get talking and we get talking, it all connects to the message she sent to me. It all just blew wide open. So this is how beautiful spirit is. It had to do with health and the heart.
Yeah.
So odd that it happened 7 years later. That was probably the chance of that ever happening would be like 99.99999%. It would never happen, and it did. And I also have a book I use quite heavily called The Secret Language of Your Body. So it all connected. My whole point is, David, I didn't mean to talk that much.
No, that's okay.
What comes through for you, but maybe we should back up because I want to talk more about your gifts. Are you comfortable sharing some of the experiences you had with your near death experience? Because I think people will find that really incredible.
Oh, well, what part?
Okay, well, you shared some parts with me. You no longer eat meat, and you're very clear that you don't make a statement about whether people eat meat or not. You're not
Yeah,
being mental about it, but for yourself, what happened?
yeah, I do not eat meat. I did before, and I never really thought about it. Um,
Mhm.
but after when I came out of the coma, I guess, and I still really wasn't myself too much. It was just like hazy yet. They were trying to feed me. I had lost 100 pounds, over 100, 120 pounds in 2 months
Mhm.
from being under.
And you
But
were never obese because I've seen pictures of you before. You were a heavier, like you were
I
really a
was
more built guy.
I was 240 pounds. I mean, I was big, but I just didn't. I carried my weight well, but I was
Yeah.
really big. And now, right now, I'm 172, I think,
Mhm.
173. Um, but where was I?
With the
Uh,
with that meat.
oh yeah. So I ate meat and everything, and when I came out, they tried to feed me, and I started yelling. They said, and that's this. I don't remember much. I started yelling that I could not eat that. I could not eat that. I can't eat the animals. And oh, this was like the middle. Yeah, I came out for a little bit. That's because my father told me about this. So that happened, and then 2 or 3 days later, after I was out again for like another 3 days, or I didn't wake up, and then I guess I sat up really big and screamed out loud about the animals, and they're killing the animals and all this stuff. Shortly after that, we remembered why. When I was a part of what everything that happened to me, it wasn't a just go to heaven type of thing and come back. I actually went through a small life review. They took away a lot of karmic stuff that was there. Um, some of the shamans I know, which I study shamanism now, tell me that I had shaman sickness at that point.
Let's talk about that too after, because people probably haven't heard that before.
Sickness. Yeah, I didn't even know what that was. And when they said, when I told them everything that happened to me, they like sent me to this page and they're like, read this. And I'm like, holy cow, it's like verbatim. Um, and I'll talk about what that is later. And it's terrible. It's not terrible, but it's terrible. But I went through, part of it was going through what a lot of other people were feeling and doing, and they did that to me with the animals as well. So I went through a process of actually going through slaughter when I was there, but without the physical pain. And then they did explain to me, I really don't believe it's right to kill animals, and I got a whole thing behind that. But I mean, if you're going to eat, go ahead. There's not a sin. You're okay.
Yeah, you've never been judgmental about it, but I think it's very interesting to hear this because you did have a powerful experience.
Yeah, I went through the slaughter of it, and I went through the emotion, and that's the bad part of it. It doesn't even really matter to the animal. The animal kind of knows what's going to happen before it gets here, but they should not be treated like that, and that's why they go through this over and over, so people will wake up and stop treating them like crap before they just dispose of them willy-nilly. No prayers, no nothing, no thank you for doing this for us, nothing. So what I went through basically was the emotion of it as I was going through the slaughter, and it was terrifying. And it's not like ours. It's not like a fear we have, because when we have a fear, we watch a scary movie and a guy chasing kids with a knife, and oh, they're screaming. It's a different kind of fear. It's the worst energy that I've ever felt. I'm like, this is off. Really? Who would want to put this on anybody? So when I had woke up, I have not eaten meat since, and I never will. I just
Well,
don't.
you said to me,
It's just better for me.
you know what you said to me, David, after you shared that was that if anybody experienced that themselves, nobody would ever eat another animal.
Absolutely true. If anybody went through, if anybody felt what I felt when that happened, they would never ever eat an animal again unless it was for survival or something. I know animals eat other animals because I asked the animals about that too. They're well aware of their place on the food chain when they get here. But as far as for slaughter goes, I mean, even if you look back like hundreds and thousands of years ago, people took care of their animals. Their animals were like gods and goddesses to them. And they ate them. Usually, the ones who weren't going to make it through winter, those are the ones that were slaughtered, and they were slaughtered very humanely, and they were thanked over and over and over. Not all of them. This isn't everything, but I mean, a lot of that was the practice. You said thanks, and I still tell people you should always. You don't have to say a prayer like they did that. But I think it's always good to say something over your food, because another thing I learned, which some people believe, some people don't, but I'm a believer in it, the energy of that animal is still in that food you are eating. So you're literally eating negative energy, and people always go, well, why don't I feel so good after I ate that burger? Or why didn't I feel so good after I ate that chicken? Or, oh, I ate too much ham and this and that. Now I don't feel good. I'm like, it's not just that you put something fried and greasy into your body, but you're also could be absorbing the energy of what that animal went through. And the way to do is you can transmute energy. I mean, most of us know this. Energy can be transmuted. So if you say a prayer of thanks, or just say, "Hey, thanks for going through what you did, so I could have this burger with my friends and all that," and appreciate it. Just say it in your head real quickly. That will transmute any energy that's there. That animal's energy will eventually get to that animal, and they will heal. So if you're going to eat it, that's fine. But that's why I don't eat it, because of that episode. It's never going to happen again.
An interesting perspective, that other people might not have look at. And I love that you've like about these things privately, and even then, like, you're not judgmental. But I think it's an interesting perspective to hear, And like I said, you're here, but if you had a reading with David, you'll realize how dead on he is, and he's very humble. We do have a question for you. There's Kate says, that's how things come to me when we're talking about mediumship. It's not like it's a conversation. It's almost like connecting to someone's thoughts or memories or sensing what they sense, etc. Sometimes I hear phrases or I see an image like a photo or a quick flash, or I will have a thought that reminds me of something they are trying to communicate. I think that's what Kate. She said, I don't see clear spirits regularly. I haven't done any mediumship training, though I would like to.
Oh, that's good. To make you feel better, it's almost like when people talk about clairaudience, and some people will tell you, "Oh, I hear him perfectly in my ear all the time," and I have to call bull on that, because if you heard that all day long, that would really drive you crazy.
I agree. I agree.
I do hear them
audibly. Keep talking. I'm going to pop out and pop right back in because it's doing it again. Keep talking, David, please.
So I do hear it audibly sometimes, but the audibility is more for me. And for the most part, like with my clairaudience, the thought or the voice will first come into my head. It's first the voice, and I will hear their voice. So it's not my voice. I hear another voice, and the thoughts in a different voice, which is really quite odd to hear. But then after a while, when we get real connection, I don't even hear their voice anymore. They just kind of put the thought right through me. So I just know exactly what to say. So I don't even have to think about it. So that's how a lot of times I hear. Now, when I see them, I've seen them as plain as day. But then but that's very rare to see them plain as day. It's very rare. But like when I do readings and people go, how do you know what they look like and all that? Well, what happens for me is that first I'll start to see specks of the face. And I don't close my eyes for it. You can just see it and then they will come in my third eye, your clairvoyance. It'll be so strong, like it's almost projected right in front of me. Like I know that they're like sitting right here. And then some happen, like when I do gallery readings, sometimes there'll be like an outline. When somebody's sitting there, you can see like an outline of a male or a female. And that's how I know that's the next spirit usually in line. Or else the really funny thing is almost like they turn my head. It's almost like, look over here, straight ahead, that one, that one, that one. And they'll put my gaze or something on somebody until I realize, oh, that's who they want me to go to. And so that's it for seeing them.
We have a question, but I want to put a comment. We have two questions, actually. I'll read the first one because it's a quick yes or no. Zachman wants to know, is that why halal or free-range chicken tastes better to me?
Yes. Because I will consume eggs. Sometimes I'm not vegan. I will consume eggs. I only consume eggs that were right off the farm or something. And they do. And I don't know why people don't eat them. They are better. Free range chicken either. Now, if you're going to eat meat and all that stuff, that would be the way to go. These chickens have a life. Now, most of those chickens don't even like to go outside the barn. Chickens really aren't that intelligent, but they are a life, and they do have sentience. They do have feelings. So the fact that they get to run around and do their chicken life and experience something before they go, that's awesome.
I have seen some pretty smart chickens that some people have. There's a channel I watched. I don't know if Spirit put it in my path or what, and it's called something Donkey and I'm a Survivor, and it's a rescue, but it's a husband and wife in Texas, and he is just, oh my God, you'd be laughing yourself crazy at Lester and his wife Jamie. Jamie is in love with the feather animals. She calls them the littles. And Lester, he used to be a teacher, and he's got anxiety and stuff. Like, he's about our age, but he is just so funny. Oh my God, David. He calls them all the babies. But those chickens, they've got some personalities on them, and I've seen other people, same thing.
Yeah, they actually do. I'll add this to that. Just like people, we have people that just seem like they're just dumb as a box of rocks. They don't do anything. That doesn't mean that's all people. Chickens and groups of animals are the same way. Some of them will just be naturally more intelligent. But I think that those animals, their souls are progressing more. And that's why they came into this life with a bit more intelligence. Plus, once you name an animal, that's like a gift. That's a gift to that animal. If you name that animal and you say, yeah, this is your name, I identify with you and all that, right away, that helps their spirit out and everything. Plus, you know, I tell people I can't eat animals because I talk to them. I mean, that'd be really odd, you know. And
some people are doing that nowadays, it seems too. But my God, that's a whole different show. We have another question here. I highlighted it. Jeannie wants to know, what is shaman sickness? I knew people would ask about that because you don't hear about it that often.
Shamanism is, for me and everything that I've read on it, I've only been studying it for maybe about 4 or 5 years now, or right after the coma. And I practice it. It's just beautiful. I'm not by no means a shaman. I don't consider myself one. Shamanism is of the earth. It's in so many indigenous things. It's not just, everybody thinks of shamans just being in America. They're not. They're in Canada, they're in America, they're in the Himalayas, they're in Japan, their shamans are everywhere. Shaman sickness, shamans are the ones in the villages that would find the water and the food for them, the medicine man, the one that knew all, basically the resident psychic of all these groups, but way more than that. I mean, saying that really cheapens it. No, these people are absolutely wonderful people. In order to be a shaman, something had to have happened to you. Long time ago, for most shamans, I can believe it, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody can add to this is just the skinny of it, what I kind of know. The shaman would be the one, usually back then, who got hit by lightning. So that sounds weird, but it's true. If they got struck by lightning and lived through it, they're pretty much going to end up being the shaman, but that's because they went through big trauma. Well, it started going on from there, and now shamans are made by trauma, extreme trauma that they go through. Then they go through shaman sickness. Shaman sickness.
Is that your fire alarm?
Yeah, which is so odd because there's
I just heard a voice.
Maybe because I'm talking about shamanism.
No, it was a female voice. I don't know. Did anybody else hear it in the chat? Yeah, it was a female voice right after that. There it is again.
No, that's Kitty. That's Kitty.
That's Kitty. That's Kitty there. There was a female voice. I swear to God, too. I get EVPs on my show, though, especially when Seraphine and I used to do shows together. We get them all the time. So we might have somebody coming through. The one thing I want to add about the shaman sickness that came right across my path, and I did not expect this, and I agree with you about the trauma. But what this documentary was about how mental illness is handled versus how it would be handled by somebody that had a shaman, and how it was dealt with. And this was part of the process. They were saying, no, this is just from different parts of the world, interviewing people, that could be a sign, almost like that trauma they're going to go through. Like, we're talking serious mental illness here, like, severe bipolar or something. And instead of all the drugs and whatever else, they had a way that they progressed this and processed and helped. What was your thoughts? Have you heard anything like that?
I did. There's a lot of weird stuff with how people think about how things happen. I don't even know how to formulate that for words. I really can't think about it.
They talked to shamans, and they weren't called shamans, but they would do the same type of line of work, if you will. It's not even it's a calling.
I think those healing. I think a lot of people. I think I know where you're getting at. I think those people, because they're healers, shamans are healers too.
That's the part they were addressing. You're absolutely right. The healing aspect.
Yeah, shamans are healers. That's the number one thing you do. They just have the power through them. Oh, let me get back to, and I'll get back to that too, because that might lead into it.
I will tell you before you start quickly, Kate heard a woman laugh, and Zachman says he heard it too. So there you go.
I have somebody. Okay, here's the deal, guys, and this is on God's truth, and it's funny. But whenever I do my work here and I do stuff, they always show up. And when I get really intense and talking like that, really get close, because I'm like seeing stuff all over in front of me right now. So, and I don't know why my fire alarm would go off.
Well, let
So,
us know they're there.
yeah, and that's pretty much probably what it was. Who's here?
Can I tell you?
Mm-mm. No, but now I heard it. Am I right?
Hi, Dave. Welcome, Dave Petrella.
Hi, Dave Patrol.
So, what did they say? Are they still talking?
No, they're not answering me, and I think I know who it is, but I'm not quite sure.
Well, you just moved, didn't you?
Huh?
You moved, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought you. Yeah.
this is a new place I'm in. Yeah, but it's another. It could be anything. Who knows? Anyway, to get back to it.
Get back to this. Yeah, that's what I said I'd like lately. Squirrel, squirrel.
You know, it's really funny when you're a medium and you're actually freaking yourself out at this point. It's like, what do you want? Just say it because I'm busy.
Yeah.
Um, but the game, I'll play the game. I don't care. Um, but okay, so shamans. It's basically when this happens in shaman sickness. How the best way to describe it is it's tearing down of the soul, basically being dismembered from limb to limb without any pain, but it's you basically they tear you apart and put you back together. Um, and that's pretty much what probably the shaman sickness is going through that. And it's, you know what, I can't pretend it was hell. And they say once you go through that, then you're a shaman, but I do not call myself a shaman, nor do I deserve that title. Shamans can only be called shaman by somebody else. A shaman should never proclaim themselves. Maybe one day I'll get the calling for it. But I love it. And a funny thing about that, when I was done after this, I had a reading by a lady who didn't know me, and she turns out to be a good friend of mine now. But right before I had that reading, I had to buy, and I think I told you this, Lori, I had to buy like everything Himalayan flags.
Yes.
I had to buy everything from the Himalayas, yaks, all that. What was that? Those mountains up there. Tibet. Everything Tibet. Everything I saw Tibet, I had to buy. I did not know why, but I had to buy it. My room had Tibetan Himalayan flags and prayer flags everywhere. It was unbelievable. And I could not figure out why I had that. So I have this reading from this lady who's now a friend of mine. She's very gifted, amazing. She did not see my room. Okay. We're talking. And I wanted to find out from different people about what I went through, because I had to go through a lot of searching to find out which was real, which was my imagination, which actually happened. And the first thing she said to me was, "You went through shaman sickness." And I was like, okay. And at that point I knew. And she goes, "Because you're a shaman." And I said, "No, I'm not a shaman." She goes, "No, you are." She said, "You are right now." She said, "There's another part of you in another realm living right now, and you're living as a shaman. He's a Tibetan shaman." I'm like, "Oh my God, the Tibetan
Makes
shaman."
sense. Makes
And I'm
sense.
like, "Holy cow." And I'm like, okay. Well, that kind of fizzled away, but I did get in touch with that higher self of mine. So, and like I said, that's what changed my mind. I said, maybe one day as I get older, maybe I will go into that more when they call me to it. And I did take some classes and I do read a lot of books on it. And I love Sandra Ingerman. If any of you ever heard of Sandra Ingerman, amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been studying it for years now, but I practice some of it. It's just being of the earth, and like I talk to the directions, and I know like everything is consciousness and all this fun stuff, all this beautiful stuff. But that's about as far as I've gone in it so far. But that's pretty much what shamanism, shaman sickness is. It was just a tearing apart of the soul, and it I can't lie, it was horrifying, but it's not painful. It's not painful physically. You don't feel it as it's happening. But you're observing it. You're in that position, observing yourself getting torn apart. Some get torn apart by a bear. Some just get torn apart. I was torn apart in a machine and then dumped into the trash.
Like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was awful. And I watched it just screaming, "What are you doing? Why is this happening?" And just seeing visions of everything. Some of it was probably past lives, everything bad or terrible that I've ever done. And even bad, terrible things that I thought that I did in this life that were bad and awful. And it was came to these guys telling me later on, they're like, "No, what you did is nothing. That's nothing. Why are you ashamed of that?" They're like, "That's because the world told you that was shameful." I'm like, "Oh my God, you mean I didn't do anything bad?" They're like, "No," and so they said there's people who do terrible things and you didn't do that. So they took all that karma away. It's
Oh,
pretty
that's
cool.
good.
So that was the cool thing that happened from that.
Now we
Yeah.
have a question that I asked you. Oh, Carol says, David, you are looking good. But Jeannie Spencer, and I asked you this just before the show because I knew we were talking about this because I'm writing 3 books. And I asked you, David, if you've got a book out, don't you? And you said, I'll give you the question. Have you wrote a book, Dave?
I'm writing the book. It's gonna take a little bit yet. I wasn't sure how to write it. I originally was just gonna write the experience from
Excuse me.
passed out to what happened during the coma, and they didn't want me. I'm talking my guides or the spirit folk I talk to, the spirit people, the
That
spirit
support
peeps,
you. That
spirit
support.
peeps. Yeah. Um, they're like, no, you need to tell everybody how this happens because so they had me start literally from kindergarten, they had me going through school. But the thing is, in the book, how it's being written, it's not just an autobiography. A lot of the things that have happened to me, I'm writing in it that are terrible, scary things sometimes. I don't think a child should read the book, some of the stuff I went through. But a lot of other people have gone through this and they want to hear, sometimes there is a big reason why.
Mm-hmm.
And they want me to go all the way through the life up to why this happened and why I had weird stuff happen to me all my life. I mean, I've had some really doozies, and Lori knows about some of them. I mean, outside of just talking to spirits and all that, I mean, I've seen other things too. And like in real life. So, and I was wondering.
Anything you want to share? Anything so people kind of have an idea, like you've seen it. Like if you don't want to, that's okay too. I'm
No,
not putting
that's
that.
okay. There's a couple. Well, like in the book, I don't. So a lot of this will be like it's in parts of the book. When I was a child, they were so strongly in our house for me growing up. When they first started to come around, I mean, you could literally hear them in the house. My family could hear them in the house. They would, as soon as they'd go downstairs and they'd put me up in my room, the attic doors would open and close. They would creak. We've had electric sockets would shoot out sparks at night. They would do all this, and this is what I went through growing up. And we'd move, and they would follow us. I would hear them talking. I would go to school and I could still hear talking. And I'm like, oh, so that was scary at first, but then I got really used to it. And I thought it was just kind of normal after a while. But then once I started going to school, um, that's when I was just the crazy kid when I opened my mouth to tell somebody about it and right away shut my mouth again. Like,
It's
nope.
so difficult, and this is part of what I do because if you're not, when you're going through that as a child, life can be terrifying enough as a child, depending on the kind of child you are. But when you come in with somebody like yourself, very young, I had things off and on. I didn't have it my whole life like you did.
Yeah.
You've got nobody to tell. How do you process this? Like I have the moderator, and I've told you about her before. She's in Sardinia, Italy, and she reached out after seeing our Paranormal Survivor episode, and I literally heard from Spirit, you need to contact her. She's a beautiful soul, so talented. Like just can look at a picture and pick up where it is location wise around the world, like just really amazing. And she wrote an article. A friend of mine used to put out a free paranormal magazine called the Paranormal Chronicles. I wrote an article, How to Open Your Third Eye. Didn't really tell people, but we went over why do people want to know, what have you. But the reason I share this is She shared what it was like to be a child going through this in a strict Roman Catholic Italian family, being an only child. Her parents thought she was crazy, and how lonely it can be, how terrifying, trying to navigate this on your own. So, my whole point is that I put out there that I do work with children only with parents' permission. But if a child's going through this, because you need somebody to either support the parent if they're going to be doing the mentoring, or you've got to have somebody supporting your child. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I would totally agree. I have to say though, I was a little lucky though.
Mhm,
I mean, it's not all sad, folks.
mhm,
Listen, this is the weird thing, and I'm going to tell you about some of the weird stuff I saw that I told Lori knows about. Um, the coolest thing that happened to me in my lifetime going up to this, like I wasn't meant to be like a medium in this right away as a child or a young man. That wasn't what was in store.
mhm,
I went on a million different adventures growing
mhm.
up. They just directed me towards different careers that I did. And as soon as it started to go good, I'd get scared. They'd back off. They'd put me in another one. I'd just go on and on and on. So it was fun that way. It was hard, but when I look back, I'm like, I've done a lot of really cool stuff that a lot of people have never done. I've done everything that I dreamed about pretty much.
Mhm.
Like I dreamed about being a rock star. I became a rock star. I was in a band and learned how to play bass, guitars in a Rush tribute band. Like in the 80s, I did all that. I
Yep.
wanted to, I wanted to be an actor after that. I took an acting class, ended up doing play after play after play after play after play, and I wanted to be a comedian then. And then I went to school in Chicago and at Second City in Chicago, and I learned improvisation. I was a comedian after that, and I went on stage. So I got to do all these things.
Yeah.
They never went very far, but they kept taking me to all these things. But there was a reason why, and that is because that was all everything I ever wanted to do. I'm glad it never did pan out because I wouldn't give up the gift that I have now doing what I do. I love it. So all these things everybody thinks are so cool about being famous, being this, being that. That's not what really life is about. A lot of those people really aren't even happy.
They're
I mean,
not.
some are, but some are, but I mean, not that happy. Who you are and what you experience in this life is going to make who you really are. Any fame or money you have, trust me, I've been there. It doesn't go with you. Nobody over there gives a crap if you're Elvis. Nobody cares if you're anybody over there
They
because
don't.
you're not them anymore.
And then
Yeah.
working in palliative care, and we've talked about this privately too.
Mhm.
That's the biggest realization for people usually when they go through the different stages that everybody goes through. It should be called the 5 stages of loss, I think, not just death and dying. Because if you lose a job or a relationship or whatever, as a human being, you don't follow a progression, but you usually go through these 5 stages. And the ones that I always found, and the majority of people would say, I focused on all the wrong things. I was going to be happy once I made my first million. I was going to be happy once I did this. I was going to be happy once I lost that last 20 pounds or whatever it was. And then, you just listen to people and support them as a nurse. What are you going to say? But most people would say, I wish I had told the people around me more how much I love them. I wish I had taken the time with my child to look at
Mhm.
that little inchworm crawling on the ground or whatever. And they'd always say, because this doesn't matter. None of it does. I'm not going to be taking it with me. It was more important about the moments that I wish I had an eternity still to spend with the people I love versus worrying about material things that it's just stuff.
Oh,
Mhm.
I know. Absolutely. It's like when people in relationships, oh, when I get into a relationship, I'm going to be really happy because I'll be really happy in this relationship. I'm like, why don't you just be happy now?
You
Because
need to be to have a healthy relationship. You've got to be happy with yourself. Nobody else can make you happy.
people will say, I'm going to lose 20 pounds and I'll be happy. Why are we happy now? What does 20 pounds got to do with it? Who gives a crap what people think?
Mhm.
It really doesn't matter at this point.
More of you to love. We've got questions here. They want to know what your star sign is or astrology sign because Jeannie says, I'm an Aquarius, and Dave Petrella says, I'm an astrologer. So they want to know what your astrological sign is.
10:45. I'll tell you the whole thing if you want to know.
Sure.
10:44, born at 10:44 in the morning, 4/14, 1966.
Mhm.
I'm an Aries.
Okay. There you go.
So I'm kind of an Aries. Wait, what was my, I am terrible with astrology, which
So
is
am
so
I. It's not my thing. I wish it was. I would love to learn it, but it's just never soaked in.
And this is a weird thing about,
Excuse me.
we can go on this for a minute. One of the things I saw, because I know Lori's going to talk about this too. One of the things I saw when I was very young, my father picked me up. I was in the South, and in my book, I call him the old man of the South, the man of the South. My father picked me up, and he was carrying me to my bedroom from the family room, and everybody else was in bed. It was just me and my dad, and so my dad was walking this way, and I was, had my hands around his shoulders, looking over his back.
Yeah.
Down at the end of the hall, standing there, is a being,
I
not a
remember you
ghost,
telling me this.
not
Yeah.
a ghost, not a spirit, an actual being standing there, plain as day, and I just watched him, and
Okay.
and he was, and this is before I knew anything about any kind of aliens. And some people freak out on this. Oh, then I got to tell you, this is funny too.
Okay.
That person standing there looked like a reptile, kind of. He
Okay.
was wearing red. He was wearing, it almost looked like a I don't know what they're called, like no sleeves. It's just wrapped around the waist a little bit. I forget what those are called.
I'm not sure.
It's like a shirt. It's some kind of shirt. He had a weapon strapped to him, and he had his hand on the weapon.
Mhm.
But that's not for anything. It's just how he's standing. And all I can remember was just hearing in my head or feeling in my head, "Yes, I'm here. I'm here." And I was like, "Okay."
Who are you?
And I didn't think about it, and I didn't see him again for years and years and years.
Dave
Although
said tunic. Was it a tunic he was wearing?
tunic, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, like a tunic. Thank you. Gosh, thank you. Somebody's trying to do.
You
Oh,
did
he said
him for years and years and years.
years and years. He said I don't look 55. What's my age? A lot of vodka in a coma. Um,
He's a
that
year, not even a year. You're a little bit under. You're about 8 months younger than I am. I just turned 56. Mhm.
yeah, yeah. I just, I don't know. I don't know what happened.
I
I
get
really
along well with
I think it's
Aries.
from
My
being
dad.
happy. I think it's from being happy all the time. I really do.
I want you to tell this story. I was just gonna say quickly.
Oh,
I get along so well with you too. Never mind that I just adore you, adore you. But you're an Aries. My dad was an Aries. I'm a Leo, and I always have gotten along very well with Aries.
yeah.
Leo.
Leos and arrows always. Yep. Um, but I seen this guy, but I hadn't really seen him since. I forget where we were going with the story. So that was an alien, and I've seen them a lot. And it wasn't until throughout my life, I was always loved the stars. I always stared at them. I have such a connection with those guys over there, and I talk to them now. I have been for a while, and I don't know if I can say this. I do a certain group that I do things on the phone where we initiate contact and talk to them. Some of you guys know what I'm talking
Okay,
about.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
Uh,
Joe Montalto, who was on here helping this,
mhm.
he is one of the founders of ICAR, which is the International Center for Alien Research. Like we talk about all this kind of stuff on this network, so go for it.
And I did a prediction, and I hate predictions. I'm not that psychic. I'm going to do a prediction about,
Not either.
Angelina and all that crap. But I was on a prediction thing, and somebody asked me a prediction. And last year I had said that this year I said, oh, they're finally going to show the pictures of the space guys because they're here. I said, so we're going to see the ships or something pretty soon. And then they did. They showed those ships, and they showed up on that. I knew they were here already. They've been here forever. I don't know what people are so freaked out about. Stupid people.
Yeah.
I mean, not to call everybody stupid, but anyway, they still contact. And I had another prediction, and I said by Christmas of this year, I think we're going to get a lot more contact, and I think contact with the ones that don't look like us. And by 2022, yes, I do believe they're going to make themselves totally known.
Good.
I think that's why religion is getting really destroyed down. I think people inherently on the insides are freaking out about things because things are, hey, listen, if everybody agreed and everybody saw these beings and everybody this and that, things will have to change. There's a lot of truth going to come out. You know, it'd be like, we've been watching you guys. We know what's happening. All that was crap. You know, I don't know. There's so many conspiracies and it's fun. All I know is I do take it very lightly. And the reason is because I've really always been aware that they were here. Even as a child, I'm like, of course we're not the only people. How stupid. I just always knew that. And I've always had that connection. I've always saw them.
They've never taken you though, have they, Dave? Because I have a missing time story.
I have a lot of missing time, but nobody's showing me anything.
I don't know what happened either. I blinked and I lost an hour and a half and I ended up about 40 miles away in the opposite direction. I've told you that story and I have no idea what happened. Joseph said, well, if I ever make it to New Orleans, he's gonna, if with my permission, he'll regress me and tell me what happened because he does that kind of stuff.
You know, it's really funny, you guys. I had QHHT done, which is the Dolores Cannon thing, so you can find out a little bit about the coma.
Yeah.
And for some reason, which was odd, it did not regress me back to any lives. It took me straight to almost the same place I went to if anybody knows about the Bardos, I maybe shouldn't bring that up because that's a long explanation. Just going from here to heaven is not the only stop. There's different places and all kinds of things.
Now you open a whole can of worms, David. Yeah. We're not going to have we've got some time, but I swear to God, you have to come back because we haven't talked about this even privately. Like, I need to know.
So what was I saying? Gosh, I lost track of thought now.
Okay, wait, well, back up. You were talking about the different things, and I asked you about missing time, if they've taken you, and about regressing. No, I got to ask you, did Julia Cannon do it for you or somebody else that was trained?
The QHHT. No, she didn't. A QHT practitioner did, and we went down. I had questions, but what happened was light language. I was singing and humming tones, and she has a recording of it. They told me that's how I got the name for my website. They had told me how I get my information. And this being, it was so poetic and beautiful. He had a long, like when he spoke, it was like a tone. It came out almost like a song, really long. But he said that when she asked, how does David get his information? And he said, he hears the whispers in the wind. And I was like, oh, how beautiful. Okay, I get that. Because actually sometimes when I talk and I'm just talking to somebody, when I don't even mean to do a reading or anything, sometimes it really, their energy or whatever they're about them goes right into my ear and right in everything. It's like some people all of a sudden I know too much about. It's like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't do that. But that's what it is. It's the wind. Everybody, if you ever just like look up or look around you, consciousness is constantly streaming by you. So people like me and Lori, like if we're doing psychic work, where it's just psychic, when we're doing past, present, future, not all this other stuff, just past, present, future, straightforward, no guides, no nothing. We're basically picking out situations about you out of that stream. And that's how I look at it. I'm just kind of going, boop, it just popped into my head. Boop, that came into my head. So, but yeah, that consciousness is always there. And now I forgot again where I'm going. They got me everywhere.
Well, that's what happens. And sometimes when I'm doing my show and I'll be talking and your mind's going like 10 miles a minute, right? Mine does. It just goes. My mouth can't even go quick enough. And then I'll realize as I'm talking, I've either forgotten what I was talking about, or I'll be moving on to something else and I'll wait. Hey, I didn't finish that thought 5 minutes ago. And I don't have ADD, but I always joke like lately. It's like, what? Squirrel.
There's a spiritual thing about that where they tell you when you drop your thought and you don't know where you were, it's because you skipped a timeline. I don't know if that's true, but I'd like, okay, let's go with that. It's not just stupid. I like this question she asked, if I could answer this quick.
You go wherever you want, sweetie. It's all
Dave, if you bumped into Bigfoot, would you be able to converse? I don't know, but I will tell you this. And I don't know how true this is. So if anybody's a Bigfoot fanatic or knows, but I did find a few of the
lots here. We got lots on this network. Anything strange and unusual is here.
I had a meditation with a Bigfoot one time.
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
And it wasn't intentional. I just went into the meditation. I guess maybe it was subconsciously unintentional. I don't know, but I've always kind of liked Bigfoot. I thought, yeah, Bigfoot. I know Bigfoot's real, but I never knew anything about it. I just inherently know he's real, just like Loch Ness and so the other cryptids. But I was sitting in this meditation, and all of a sudden, it was Bigfoot. It was the energy of, and it was beautiful, and it was intelligent, and it was, and it, the simplicity of the mind was so beautiful, but it wasn't like simple, like stupid. I'm just talking, they cut to the point, cut to the chase. But anyway, they're talking to me. And I remember asking, why are people not finding you then? I said, why is this? It's like, we see you and this and that. A couple things came through. One, some people have saw Talpa. And what a Talpa is,
Gotcha. Yeah.
a thought form. When so many people think about this thought form so hard, that thought form actually becomes real, which makes sense because what you see in front of you right now, you're thinking about it, and that's why it's here, because you're focusing, and that's how you're being alive on this earth. Your focus is that amazingly strong.
Right.
So a talpa can happen.
Right.
The other one was they are interdimensional, which is my strongest belief. I've had more than one meditation, and each and every one say the same thing. We're interdimensional, we're interdimensional, we're interdimensional, which means they can pop in and out. They do love living here, and they used to live here way long time ago, way longer than scientists could even figure out. So they did used to live here, but they left here, but their energy is still in another dimension. And I believe they have ancestral energy here. Is that what you called it? Thank you. So that's what, sorry, when they're talking. So everybody knows, if you hear me talk out to the side, when they talk to me, I just have a conversation with them like that. So, but they are interdimensional, and their ancestral energy is still on this earth. And I think a lot of people are picking up on that as well. Almost like in the paranormal, where there's a, what do they call that when you see it's not really a ghost, it's just repeating itself over and over?
Residual energy.
I think there's a lot of residual Bigfoot energy around here too, and not all of it, but I think there is some too.
Well, I was going to mention, and then somebody says, can you see a number? It said, which dimension are they in, David? And can you see a number? I'm going to add something very quickly to that. There is an interview. I can't find it anymore. Connie Willis had done it from Blue Rock Talk, and she's gone to a private website. But there's a lady on Facebook that offers free remote viewing classes, master classes for 4 days. Her name is Lori Williamson. Now, she has no interest in Bigfoot whatsoever. She has an accuracy rate. It's been measured, I believe, of about 86% with remote viewing. Connie is a major Bigfoot fanatic, and she asked Lori to interview Bigfoot. And a lot of the things you're saying, she found out. She didn't know anything about Bigfoot. She had no interest. And she's the one thing, though, she described the smell. And she said, why do you smell so bad? She said the same things you said about getting right to the point, the intelligence. And it was a grandfather or like a great elder that they respected in the dimension she was visiting. And he said, well, we think you smell. That was so funny.
I didn't get as technical as hers. It's just little parts that I saw. I didn't smell them or anything. My connection was purely
energetic,
soul to soul.
They want to know which dimension are they in,
Dave?
Dave?
I have not been able to figure it out because I know there's a lot of beings in the seventh, but the whole thing is about human beings. Can I see a number? You mean for a dimension? I want to say 6, but I'm not sure. But I want to say 6. I know that though they occupy others because they're some are, I know, like angels and stuff, those are like 9th, 10th. I mean, some of the star people that are up there are like 10th, 11th. But for some, I think that the ones, okay, thank you. The ones are saying the ones who are showing up in our dimension are closer to the 6th or 7th dimension, but their energy goes all the way up way high. They don't always occupy space with like we have interdimensional beings who are actually in a physical existence, but have a different kind of physical body. So some of the star people, let's say, who come here to visit here, or aliens, as you will, they're having almost a physical existence, but their bodies are less dense than ours is. So that's what they were saying about the Bigfoot's bodies are less dense. It gets less denser. I can't figure out how they're giving it to me.
What about the negative experiences that some people seem to have with Bigfoot? Not all of them, but I have definitely heard documented cases of negative experiences. There's a guy from Canada that gets letters too. Apparently some have gotten a body, but the government shows up. These are seems to be a lot of native people. Now they could be lying, but he seems to have a lot of letters, people sharing.
Yeah, it's, you know what, it's hard to say. Listen, there's something that I've had to come to grips with. And that is this: perception and truth aren't always what we think it is.
And it's
What,
individual.
what one person thinks is absolutely true because they see it in front of them, to somebody else they see it different. If we hold up an apple right now in front of all of us watching, we're all going to see that apple differently. So it's hard to say that if somebody wants to create a negative experience with something, which is my thing on demons, like people who see demons in every haunted house they go into, it's just because that's the experience they're attracting. So they're automatically going to see that, whether they exist or not. That's what we're creators. I mean, you're part of God. You're a creator. So you create whatever is in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
So I think some people could be creating a negative experience with Bigfoot.
Gotcha.
I don't think that every Bigfoot or Bigfoot is actually that though. I really don't. Although, like human beings, I mean, we have some great human beings, but we have some jerks too.
I
So
wanted
who?
to ask you about Dogman, and we have so many questions, but Dave, we got like 3 minutes left. And I want
Oh,
people, will you please come back? You know what I'm going to do? Now
yeah.
that I can run StreamYard, I think we should film some podcasts to play because we've had so many questions. People just love you. I knew they would. And so that we can work around your schedule, because I've been, like I said, guys, I've been wanting to have David on so long, and I'm telling you, we have barely scratched the surface with Dave because he has so much knowledge,
Yeah, we didn't
information,
get too much.
stories.
Yeah.
I didn't say this, but I do believe David is a shaman. I think that you're being very cognizant of anything in the way of coming across in the way of ego. I'm not telling you how you feel, but
I
I
mean,
believe you are.
I'm sure one day I will study, and when I study and go through all the teachings that there is, which could be take a very long time, then I would want to do that. But right now, my calling's just not there yet.
Mhm. I know. Well, he's going to come back, Jeannie. And Zach wants you back. Please come back. Everybody's saying this. I
Oh,
knew you guys would love him. Zach, you've heard me talk about him. I haven't said his name before because I know Zach has been with my shows almost since I began. And I have talked about you. I keep saying I'm trying to have this amazing guy that's a good friend of mine, but our schedules don't work. So, Dave, where can they find you? Don't forget your TikTok. I was going to bring that up, guys. He has
my
some
God.
touching videos on TikTok.
I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with TikTok. I blew up. I went from 1,000 followers to I think I'm at 73K in
Dave,
about 3
that video, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a woman that's palliative that was very honest and wrote some questions, and you answered for her because she's scared. And she
months.
has a young daughter, and she asked you, I think, what was going to happen. She was really afraid, and you gave her the most beautiful answer in the video. I can see why you blew up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can tell you later on more about that one. I can't say it here
I
right
know,
now. I
I
need
know,
to.
absolutely. But what
Yeah,
I'm
thanks
saying
for
is
doing
you
it.
answer a lot of questions and you really give a lot of information. But tell everybody everywhere they can find you, David.
My website is theywhispertome.com. I do have a YouTube channel called The Spirit Experience, although I have not made a YouTube in a very long time. I'm going to again. I had to move. My podcast is called Mystic Stew.
That's great. Mm-hmm.
You can hear that on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, all kinds of places. I haven't made an episode in a while because I was moving, but that's what I'm starting to do next week again, making more YouTube and that.
Mm-hmm.
My website is theywhispertome.com.
Mm-hmm.
My Facebook page is They Whisper to Me. And I have a group on Facebook called The Spirit Experience. And I'm under Spiritual Medium David Hanzel on TikTok. And
we didn't get to do readings tonight. I knew we probably wouldn't, but I know every now and then you go live in your group too as well, right, Dave?
I do go live in my group as well, and I'm starting to do more lives again. I have so much that's happened in the last little bit. So I'm trying to smush everything back together and come back to Dave for a minute.
Yeah.
So,
I am
yeah.
so glad. Thank you guys for the beautiful comments. I knew you were going to love them. I will have David back. Thanks, Spirit, for saying to Dave, get a hold of Lorilei, because I was like literally doing hand flips when he said he was off tonight. I was like, yay! Jeannie said Hazel is my middle name. Well, it's not Hazel, it's Hanzel, right? With the
Hanzel, Hanzel, H-N-Z-E-L. I am German and Irish.
And I want to tell you guys too, and if you ever want to get a hold of me, you can find me on facebook.com/The Angel Rock. I have 2 groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, and then the Angel Rocker Tribe for many of the things we talked about tonight. Now, I'm going to let you guys know, you're going to be the first to know. I contacted Joe Montaldo, who you saw briefly, our producer and owner, and I said, hey, what are we doing for Halloween night? Because we normally don't broadcast on Sundays. Joe has a regular day job where he runs a construction business all night and usually produces us all the time. Long story short, not sure what it's going to look like, but we're having a Halloween party here Sunday night, October 31st. Maybe I'll be, David, I don't know if you're working or I'll be able to pull you in.
Sunday night I am not working.
Okay, because I haven't talked to the other hosts yet, so I don't know who's going to be available. And even if any of the other hosts, for whatever reason, I'm sure some of them will be there, some of your favorites. But what we'll do is once I talk to them and we find out who's coming, we'll put posters, events up and stuff. But the other thing we'll be looking for is scary stories. You got some pictures, EVPs. I'm thinking probably the best thing to do, if you can make a video clip. Little video clip, audio clip, or write it out, send it to me. You can send it to the Angel Rock 1508@gmail.com. If you've got me on social media, I am on every platform under the Angel Rock, as well as Lorilei Potvin personal accounts. Send them to me because we want to share these things. We're going to have a spooky night. I'm planning we're going to dress up. I already found my crown. I might be an ice princess. You never know. So anyways, I want to thank you guys all for tuning in. Love you all. Thank you so much for being here, David. I love you dearly. I'm so grateful you were here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for listening to me yap.
Oh, I could listen. I told you guys the first time I talked to David at length, I think like it was starting to get dark and both of us went, oh my gosh, how much time has gone by? So, and you guys will see when his podcast comes back on, and I'll remind them, please share in my groups as well. So look for David, follow him, book a reading with him, or whatever, if you're doing that, David, because you are amazing and I'm so grateful you're here.
I love it.
Okay, everybody, you have a great night, and we will see you next week, next Monday. Okay, stay safe and keep tuning in to UPRN. We got all kinds of great hosts, great programming. There's something for everybody here. Love you all. We'll see you next Monday.